I want to call our meeting to order, Public Safety for May 2020. Before we begin the meeting, I need to read a statement. This meeting of the Public Safety Committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare in light of coronavirus. Do I have that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Commissioner Gurley makes that motion. Do we have a second? Second, Commissioner Serino. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Mr. P?
Here.
Commissioner Serino?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. It's good to see each and every one of you here this evening for this meeting. We are doing this by virtual tonight. We have two commissioners that are on computer with us, Commissioner P. and Commissioner Phillips. And we're glad to have them tuning in that way, and they will be making comments and voting by that way rather than here in the historic courthouse. We'll begin first with asking for a motion for the approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Mr. Vice Chairman.
The minutes of the last meeting are found to be accurate and correct, and recommend that they be moved.
We have that motion by the Vice Chairman, Commissioner Gammon. Do I have a second? Have a second by Commissioner Rather. We'll call the roll.
Mr. P?
Yes.
Commissioner Serino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you for that motion. First on our agenda is our Public Safety Director report and emergency management. Before we get in on those reports right there, I'm going to ask that our Public Safety Director come forward at this time, and also our Emergency Medical Services Director. I'm going to ask for Carl Hudgens to come forward this time too, up here to the well. Chief Farley, I need you up here too. See if we can all fit in here. But this is sort of a on-site change in your agenda and what we're doing here this evening. But the reason I bring these three gentlemen up here, they are a team that's important to us here in Rutherford County and what they do. And especially this week, as we go about recognizing Emergency Medical Services Week. And we're going to do a proclamation this evening that has already been prepared, and we're going to be presenting it. And we need to think about what has been going on in the last few weeks here in Rutherford County. A lot of people do not realize what our group of individuals have been doing and how important they've been. You know, when you're ambulance drivers and when you're EMTs and when your emergency management director standing back here behind me is recognized for their protocol and what they have done as far as protecting the citizens of Rutherford County out here, is recognized by the rest of the state of Tennessee, and it's been taken as part of their procedure to operate their systems by and protecting their citizens. That's a pretty good honor right there. But that's actually been done. They wanted a copy of what Carl Hudgens was doing here in Rutherford County, how he was keeping his employees safe, and how we were doing it. In fact, we've had some different units going out and helping other counties in what they're doing. So that's something to be quite proud of in how we do it. Plus, as they have gone about doing their services also across the county, tonight you'll see in a report there in one situation we had a patient that they have to go probably about 3 times a week to take them back and forth. And they noticed that the steps that they had to go in and help the people there to come from that house were not in all the best shape. And the 2 operators that went and make those calls quite regularly went back out there and repaired those steps and made them where it was more accessible not only for the ambulance crew but for the family to get into the house back and forth. That's the kind of team we have with all of the our first responders we have here in this county. So I want to read this proclamation, Rutherford County, Tennessee, proclamation by the mayor. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of the emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and others, and whereas the members of the emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of the emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, which takes place this year, May 17th through the 23rd. And whereas each emergency medical services employee has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of his/her duties. Now therefore, I, Bill Ketron, Mayor of Rutherford County, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2020 to be Emergency Medical Services Week in Rutherford County, and publicly salute the services of our emergency medical services employees in our community and in the communities across the nation for their hard work and dedication. Bill Ketron, County Mayor, 5/18/2020. Congratulations, gentlemen. Now, Carl, we need about an hour speech. It's up to you. Anything you'd like to say about your men before you get into your report? And Chris, let you say something here. I'll give you the proclamation.
This is just it's an honor to receive this. And, you know, when I first started at the ambulance service, I was so proud to be hired and be part of it. But probably the greatest honor was me being asked to lead it after over 30 years. And just to be in Rutherford County, when if I'm in another county and come across the county line, I just feel safer because I know what we have. And it's something that has been a privilege for me to be a part of and lead. And working with the new public safety director and Larry Farley, you know, we've come in together as, as hand in glove. And we have a very good team in this county. So thank everybody.
You want me to continue with the report, or?
Go into your report if you like to, and you can say what you like to there.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I've lived here. I was born here. I worked at Rutherford County EMS for about 22 years. This is my home. And now I have the opportunity to serve again in my own, and I get to stay at home. So, thank you. Very proud of the men and women of the Emergency Medical Service. They do a tremendous job. To my report, as you know, is filled with COVID-19. We continue to work and strive to be supplied to not only to our public safety, but to our governmental services, to Laverne, Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Eagleville, and making sure that we're able to provide for our customers and keeping our employees safe. As you can see, that we've delivered or distributed 107,209 items of supplies, and that's a pretty good feat. We continue to order supplies and go on at least, my deadline is at least till December. As you can see, that most of our trainings have been canceled. We look to hopefully begin scheduling them in the near future, but we will not hold that anytime in the near future so that our governmental agencies can rebound with their overtime and start scheduling those things. I'll leave the radio update to Mr. Peter. Are there any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? If not, do I have a motion to approve the report?
Move to approve.
Motion approved. Commissioner Gurley, second. Commissioner Rather, call the roll.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Right. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me make one comment about Chris. Chris came into the middle right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and he was talking to me this morning, and last Friday he was able to spend about 2 hours in his office for the first time. So he's been out in the middle of the EOC. So he hit the ground running, came in, and I think he's working very well, not only inside of our family, working with the sheriff, working with Director Hudgens, working with Director Farley, but also with all the other public entities, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne, Eagleville, and working with the PIOs, trying to make sure that the message is the same that we're getting out, and very proud of him coming in, and we're glad to have him in this position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Director? Ambulance report.
Okay, for the month of April, we responded to 2,347 911 calls. We had 43 hospital transfers, which left us a total of 2,390 calls. Our response time, average response time was 6.6. Number of DOAs we had for the month were 62. Our state payments on our desk was $1,550. We sent 15 of the 62 for autopsy. For that month, we spent $28,125. We've done a total of 212 autopsies year to date, and we've paid out $397,500. On the billing side, we billed $961,244. We've collected $711,455. Year-to-date collections is $7,629,649. Projected year collections is $9,155,578. And our collection percentage rate is at 174%. Insurance write-off were $553,527. Another write-offs at $19,933. On the non-emergency side, we had 292 calls. We had to decline 10. We've billed $171,481. Total collected is $100,603. Year-to-date collections is $800,418. Projected collections for the year will be $960,502. Our percent collections is 100. What is this? It's not what that can be right.
That is right. It says 1,264%, but we wrote off the insurance write-offs were more, so that's why that's why that's over 100%.
Well, the collection rate is good, so I'll leave it at that. The insurance write-off were $163,522, and other write-offs were $0. And we have some real nice thank you notes on April the 14th. Two of my staff went and built a ramp for a family that, Public Safety Director, Chairman Reed was talking about. We've been dealing with this for a little while, and they went out there on their own. I didn't know they were doing it until after it was done. So that's the caliber of people you have working at the ambulance service. And it's just not these two, it's a whole lot of them that are just like that. I got a thank you card from Debbie Irvin. And we have some other nice thank you notes. And I've met with my staff today. We're fixing to get back to doing things normal. It's time. As you know, we were going to be teaching all the departments CPR and stuff like that. If we have to do it one person at a time, we're fixing to do it. It's time to get our plan back into action. The virus delayed us for about 3 months, but we got to operate normal and stick with the plan we had. So as far as I'm concerned, this COVID-19 was just a little aggravating and a deterrent for us, and we're moving on. I plan on starting to do that next month in June. You notice our response times went up to 6.6. If you remember a couple months ago, I said I wouldn't be, I couldn't guarantee we could hold them down to the 6.5 and 6.4. I'm not disappointed with this number. Dispatches asking more questions, and paramedics are having to do a little bit different as we're going through the calls. So I'm still pleased with this number. And that's my report, sir.
Okay, sir. Any questions for the director? If not, we have a motion to approve the report. Commissioner Rather, second. Commissioner Gammon, call the roll.
Mr. Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather? Yes. Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. I believe y'all have an amendment.
We are requesting to move $25,000 from our communication equipment line item into our other contracted services line item, and that line item is the one we pay our billing company. The more we collect, the more we have to pay them. So this comes from within our own budget.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the transfer.
Have a motion to approve. Commissioner P.
Second.
Have a second. Commissioner Sherino, any questions? If not, we'll call the roll.
Mr. Rather?
Yes.
Mr. Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharino,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the report. Fire rescue. Evening, Chief.
For the month of April, we ran 482 calls. 5 of those were structure fires. 5 were mobile vehicle fires. We had 232 medical calls. We had 43 MVAs. 24 of those were with injuries. 19 of them were without injuries. Year to date, we've run 2,218 calls. We've had 30 structure fires, 12 vehicle fires, 10 rubbish and outdoor fires. We've had 32 medical assists and 1,132 medical calls. We've had 227 MVAs. 123 of those were with injuries. 104 were without injuries. Had 21 calls of electrical wiring equipment malfunctions, and for a total of 2218. The next sheet shows all the volunteer response for Allenville, Ketron, Las Casas, Christiana, and Eagleville. Countywide, we've ran 91 structure fires, 32 brush fires, 27 vehicle fires, 1,321 MVAs, and 12 with extrications, for a total county volume of 3,715 calls. The next sheet shows all the structure fires that were residential that has been turned into the county codes department that will require a permit for reconstruction. The next sheet is our report on our fire arson investigation unit. This started back in July, and I think they arrested their 9th suspect the other day for a dumpster fire that we set on fire out there at the John Bragg Highway. Ketron was called out there to extinguish the fire and called our fire investigator, and he made another arrest for the guy couldn't get in the store, so he set the dumpster on fire. So that's all the cases there and the results of those. Our Get Alarm installation program has been shut down because of the COVID-19, and we'll be resuming that June 1st. So if you know anybody out there that needs a smoke alarm, please contact our station. And also, I got an email the other day from a lady, and I'm sure Director Hudgens probably got the same email, who wanted to thank my firefighters, the Barfield station, that her 92-year-old mother had passed away, and she wanted to fix us a meal or whatever, do something for us, because she said that her mother always complimented how, when we respond to her and treat her medically, how we loved on her and act like we cared about her, and how she felt like she got such good care. And I told her just her mother feeling like that was thanks enough. And I really appreciate her reaching out to me. And I know Carl gets those calls, those emails all the time. But anyway, I just want to pass that along. It makes me feel good about the men and women that carry our organization forward. And that concludes my report, and I have a budget amendment.
Any questions on the report anyone may have? Mr. Gammon.
Just got one again, going back to the month of April and the other months, and I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I'll do it. Is Allenville keeps having a high rate of structure fires and other things, and is there such a population differential?
I think a lot of that is the old Nashville Highway area. There's a lot of those homes were built back probably in the 1950s, and most of the time that's out toward the Allenville area, down on Nashville Highway. That's where a lot of those structure fires are. But a lot of their call volume too, they run a lot of interstate calls. They run from the 70-mile marker, probably from this to right there at the 66, which is Sam Ridley Parkway. They run interstate from there to almost to the 840.
Does that contribute to motor vehicle accidents also?
as far as yeah, they ran 1,221 calls, and a lot. Of course, you look, see, they run. That's a typo right there. I just noticed that they didn't run 1,000 MVAs. That's a mistake. So I'm glad you pointed that out to me. But that number would be wrong. I'd say it's probably that last 6 probably don't need to be on there. So I just now noticed that. I apologize for that. But yeah, they do have a large number of structure fires. And it's just, I think a lot of course, out in the on Nashville Highway area, they don't have any hydrants. That was built back before they required hydrants to be over 1,000 feet.
In my suspicious mind, I think firebugs or something. But
Yeah. Well, and of course, we have the opportunity to inspect every one of investigate every one of our structure fires, and we always have a cause and origin of that. But I just noticed that typo on the MVA. That's a lot of MVAs.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve the report?
I so move to report.
Commissioner Sereno approves report. Second, Commissioner Gammon. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon? Yes. Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
And Chairman Reed.
Yes again.
All right, thank you.
So you have an amendment.
I'd like to move $2,900 from line item 355 travel to 452 utilities, and $2,008 from 336 maintenance equipment maintenance to 499 other supplies and materials, $5,000 from 708 communication equipment to 338 vehicle maintenance, and $10,000 from 708 communication equipment to 499 other supplies and materials.
Chief, I have a question. You mean you're going to pay your utility bills before you're going to travel?
Well, we're moving our travel to our utilities. I think we kind of adjusted because we took this. The sort was moved over to us last year in April, after the budget went in place. So we're trying to adjust for those utilities.
I don't doubt it. Appreciate all you do.
You heard the request for the amendment. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman. This is Jeff Phillips.
Commissioner Phillips. And second, Commissioner Gurley. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Radio system, Peter?
Get through this quick and easy tonight, hopefully. Update on the radio system. The final deployment of the Transportation Division over at the Sheriff's Office has been completed. And the trainer that we had postponed in March is scheduled to start in the morning. So that'll continue throughout the week with all the different organizations. We met last week with law enforcement, fire, and EMS to discuss how we're going to migrate from the old system over to the new. That went well. We got a plan in place, and everyone was comfortable with that. So we're moving forward in that direction. The Long Ridge Tower on Bradeville Road, we got a head start. I told you about we were doing some early strikes, preeminent strikes on that. So we got all the work done at that tower site. So now all they'll have to do is come back in and put a microwave up. So that got us about a 3-day head start on that part of the project. The old Eagleville lease has made it to county legal. So I've talked to Nick. He's reviewing that. And the MCOR, which is the main brains computer of the system, has been upgraded. So we're good to go to move forward. And that sums it up for this month.
Any questions on the radio? If not, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, OSHA. I don't believe this is Dan, but good evening, Mr. Elam.
Chairman Reed and Commissioners, good evening. I have the OSHA report for you. You will see the frequency for April 2020, there's 5. I will point out this time last year there was 33. And as you'll see further in the report, how that reflects. I would love to say that it was our office doing a fabulous job, but actually, if you look at the notes to the bottom right, it says county schools were closed for the coronavirus March 15th, 2020 through the end of the school year, and that also the county offices were closed for April the 2nd. So that's where you see the big difference in the accidents. I know sometimes you've had not so good news money-wise, but here's one thing that you can show that there is a difference. Accident frequency for the calendar year, you'll see that there's 52. OSHA log summary, there's 34 recordable. There are restricted day claims, there's 22. Lost day claims, there's 6. And then other recordables, there's 6. Moving over to the next page, on-the-job injury claims for 2019, you'll see there's 87, and again, this 2020, you'll see that we're at 52. On-the-job injury dollars that are incurred, and again, you'll see another trend downward. For 2019, you see 172. For 2020, you see 149,000. And then as you get to the last page, cause of injuries, you'll see that of the 5, 2 of them were the Board of Ed, 3 of them were County General, and in the County Journal you have 2 in the Sheriff's Department and 1 in Solid Waste. Mr. Chairman, that completes my report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on the report? If not, I'll ask for a motion. Commissioner Gammon, is there a second?
I second it.
Second, Commissioner Gurley, call the roll.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Recovery Court report. Ms. Breed, I believe this is your first report?
It certainly is.
You've been with us, what, 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, please, not too hard tonight on her report.
So as you all know with COVID, some of the things in our office has changed. You'll note on our report that the program fees that we've collected are down. I do foresee that next month for May, those will go up. We have already started collecting some payments on that. Also, you'll see that the group numbers are down, but what I want to really point out to everyone is that we have continued to do groups. We're doing them telehealth. So we are doing both individual and group counseling every day in our office via telehealth, but the numbers are down just because of capacity for that. So I'll start with page 1 of the report with drug court. We have 38 total participants in April. The drug of choice was heroin, 87% attendance in counseling, 99% of required attendance in AA or NA or self-help meetings. We had 3 people complete and 1 terminated in drug court. In DUI court, we had 27 participants. The drug of choice was alcohol, 100% compliance with all of the counseling and group sessions, 100% compliance with MRT. We had 114% compliance on 12-step or self-help meetings. So that means those individuals are attending more groups than they actually have to. And that's a good thing because that shows they're trying to stay sober during this time when they can't actually go in person. We had 4 people complete and 0 terminated. With Veterans Court, we have 20 participants. Their drug of choice is alcohol. 84% compliance on counseling and group sessions. 139% compliance with 12-step meetings. Again, that shows that they're really working hard on their sobriety during this time. The one thing that stands out here is 192 hours of community service completed. We have a lot of people that have really been taking this time to go out and get their community service completed because they're off work. 2 graduates, 1 terminated for noncompliance. That takes us to mental health court. 36 participants. Their drug of choice tends to be alcohol. 92% compliance in counseling or group, 100% compliance in MRT, 141% compliance in self-help meetings, and we had 1 person that graduated. With all of those statistics and things being said, I did notice in preparing them this month, and I had a conversation with the mayor, and we discussed it, and there are quite a few things that are not on this report that I think would give a better reflection of what we do at our office. I'll be happy to continue to provide you with this information if it's something the commission prefers, but I think that I could give you a better perspective of what our office does as far as who we're serving and how we're serving them. So I'd be glad to offer that into the next month's report.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, these stats are nice, and I'd like to see those put on our SharePoint or email to committee members, or actually put on a SharePoint where we can all take a look at them. But I can read the report and so on. And what I really would like to say or see, I think a lot of times, and what you're doing, it's the person. It's about the person. It's about changing a life, taking them from changing their pattern of behavior from going down the wrong path to the right path, from being a non-contributor to society to being a contributor to society, and betterment of their families. So I think just hearing stories and seeing some of the things that they participate in and so on would be really meaningful to us, especially when we come up to consider funding, because it's about the person. And I think so. If you have ideas, and I'm sure you've talked to the mayor and various things, I'd be more than willing to listen to those.
Absolutely. I will start including that.
Mayor?
Trish, do you have some of those things that you talked about this morning, and you'd like to share with them next month on the report to see if that's
absolutely
conducive with what they're thinking as well?
Just for statistic purposes, I think the number of clients that are referred to us, that's nowhere on any report. So we could be getting 150 referrals a month, and you all would not know who we're serving or how many people we're serving within the justice system. I think that the community service work hours are important, and I think that's because they are giving back to our community, but I think maybe, like Commissioner Gurley said, including some stories about that. For instance, this morning I babysat a guy's children while he ran in to do his drug screen so that he could drop them off at the sitter and go to work, because he works at a grocery fulfillment center. So he's getting all the hours he can handle. I mean, we've got a lot of guys and girls that are doing a lot of work to try to get on the right track and stay there. And I do think that if we highlight that, not only would it make the commission happy and the mayor happy, but I think our community would be a happier place knowing that these people are turning it around. So.
Other comments? Anyone? I think it's a good idea too, because we can look at statistics like this, but when we don't have these other things that you're doing and what's involved there, I think that'll give us a new light on what's going on in the process there. And that's a great idea. I think that's where we need to go, just like Commissioner Gurley has said there, what we're talking about. Any other comments or questions? If not, do we have a motion? Approve her report.
Motion to approve her report.
Commissioner P. Second, Commissioner Rather. Call the roll.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Maybe 2 weeks, but looks like you're on your way and got it under control. Thank you. All right, probation report. Ms. Phillips. Also in the same situation right here. All new.
Yes. Ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. For the probation report for the month of April, we had a total expenditure amount of $110,376.24. Total amount collected by the clerk's department with the circuit and general sessions courts combined was a total of $10,967.74. The total amount of revenue for the probation recovery department for the month of April was $13,190.74. And that gives us a difference of $97,185.50. The total amount of probation fees that was turned over to the clerk's office to be collected through voluntary payment agreements was $4,227. Those that failed to enter payment agreements for the month of April was $2,080. For the total fiscal year, the amount of money that was turned over to the clerk's office was $161,661.25. And those that failed to enter a VPA for this fiscal year so far was $176,223.15.
Any questions on probation and recovery? If not, do we have a motion on the report?
Move to approve.
Commissioner Gurley?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Sereno, call the roll.
Mr. Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you. Okay.
I did want to share something. I'd spoken this morning and shared a few things that we've been working on, and I thought it'd be appropriate to share what we've been working on at the probation department for the last little bit. We have kicked off a program called the Olive Branch through our department. It initially started off as staff, just internal. We would clean out our closets. We would bring food from our pantry because currently we have about 1,300 people that are on probation that are currently, they could be just released or they're just out of work or they're in the homeless population. So that was something that we did see that specific need. I have two very organized young ladies that work down at the office that have organized specifically what's called the Olive Branch. We actually had a kickoff program right before COVID-19 started off where we actually reached out through social media, through Ashley McDonald so that that could be out in the public, and we had a complete outpouring of help from other departments and from also the publics, people that had never actually even been to our office. So in saying that, we actually have a clothes closet that's down at our office that we have. We have a food pantry that's there. We actually have donated toiletries, things like that. We have a checklist. We have that so that we can keep tallies of what we have or what we need. And people go shopping at the Olive Branch. So, and recently we've actually started deliveries so that those that can't normally get out of the house, we actually bring stuff like that. So it's kind of like a DoorDash program. So if they've requested specific things, we will actually drop that off at their home. And I know Megan with the OIT, that was a big thing to start off and kind of get that out there. She's really been helpful as far as getting our website established and kind of getting that going so that they actually have the ability to request an online form where they can request delivery if need be. Because I know during this time there's been a struggle with, safer at home and things like that, but we also serve a community that sometimes they don't even have a driver's license and it's just not feasible for them to catch a ride or, reach out for help. So that's something that the online ability has given them the chance to actually submit that. We're not as worried about who you are as much as we are what you need. So that's something that we're very excited about, and I wanted to share all of that with everybody tonight so that everybody was aware of what we were doing and what we're trying to establish and to build on.
Very good. Thank you. Glad you shared that with us. Thank you. All right. Correctional Work Center. Superintendent Cope, glad to have you.
Afternoon. We'll start with our minutes from our May 4th meeting. The majority of that meeting was really consisted of some protocols and precautions we've been taking to keep everyone safe there at the facility. So if you'll kind of read over some of that when you get an opportunity. We spoke about sending all the work crews back out to work on May 18th, and we did that. And one thing that we're trying to do is treat all of our inmate workers just like we do our staff, and checking their temps when they will come back into the building and then when they leave out also. And not to mention the people that are picking them up to do that work. If you'll look over on our work release program, that kind of goes hand in hand with that. All of our 40 or so inmates that we have on work release all went back to work today. We are working with every company that we started out with. They've all picked them back up except for one, and we're working out some details with that. That we should be able to work that out within the next month or so. Put them back to work there too. In the meantime, they've gone to work at another facility. Our yearly activity report, as you can see, our numbers are down. That was done intentionally to try to keep our numbers at a minimum, just for the simple fact that it was safer for us and the inmates there at the facility. And then our worker report, as you can see, most of the work has been done over the past couple months on the grounds of the facility. But there's about a $94,928 saving using inmate labor. We've been working with, right before Steve's passing, we started looking at doing community service with some of the specialty courts, and putting some of these guys that had maybe had a sanction or two, put them to work. And so over the past couple weeks since Trish has taken that position, we've continued that mission. I think we had, I don't know, something like 12 going out and picking up county roads from the various courts, in addition to what we were doing with the inmates. So needless to say, that's not going to be a community service that they're going to choose next time. That was pretty hard work, 8 hours solid of it. So other than that should complete our report.
Mayor?
Superintendent, why don't you share with the chairman and the rest of the committee what we got worked out last week with you and Mac Nolan, and what you're preparing to do.
The mayor and Mac Nolan and I met it was about a week and a half ago or so, and we are going to transition the county roads cleanup over to our department as opposed to having solid waste do it. The driver that we had used previously that worked for Mac's department is going to work as a liaison between the two departments now. So he's going to take care of all of our supplies and kind of give direction on which county roads need to be done and where the most dumping is going on, because those guys know a little more than we do. So we'll be doing the county roads, state routes, and the interstates now. So Work Center will be doing them all.
Mr. Chairman, it just made sense since Mac was having to come over to the workhouse and pick up inmates and go back out, and if he had to bring one back in for any reason, then he had to load the whole passenger van up with 12 and bring them back with him. Whereas He has that specially built trailer, and the superintendent's having one made now just like it, so he'll end up having 2 trailers that has a porta potty on it, or 3 maybe. I think Max got a couple of extra trailers, so it just makes sense since the inmate labor is he's responsible for it. And what we talked about recently is that his guys are actually trained and go through that process of how to handle those inmates when they're out. And everybody agreed to it. Mike was ready to give it up and let superintendent and his staff take over. So I think it's going to be good for us. And matter of fact, y'all been picking up a lot of trash, I understand, off the interstate, and it's starting to look better.
They've done a lot of work out there. I mean, whereas it used to be, several hours a week, now it's turned into 8 hours at least a day. And as long as the weather's good, those guys are out there every day. And I know that, like you mentioned, Mayor, that it'll be done a lot more efficiently now that it's under us. I know Tommy Harris, who works for MAC, has been showing up at our department first thing and clocking in using our time clock in the morning, so as opposed to clocking in at solid waste, going to pick the vehicle up, coming all the way out to the building, checking out the inmates, and then by that time it's 8:30, 9 o'clock. Those guys are getting out and hitting the road before 8 now, so, and working a full day. So it's going to work out great. Mac, my staff, and Tommy Harris all met the first of the week, last week, and worked out a lot of the details. So it's working great.
Good deal. Any other questions on the report? Mr. Gammon.
It's everywhere. I mean, you'd be shocked at the things that we found out there.
Commissioner, could you use the mic?
I know that.
I had a few people in my district. I don't know if they were in my district. I would hope not. They said you're going to find it on the side of the road.
It's out there. We found everything from deep freezers to a Winnebago top. If you can imagine it, it's out there. We found, we had to move a homeless guy out of there, living on the side of the interstate at one point. I mean, if it's possible to be out there, it's going to be. I've never seen anything like it.
Let me ask a quick question. Mayor, I think at one point you were talking about having a little reward system going on dumping, I believe. People dumping trash, if you could identify them and testify if need be.
I think I'd still like to pursue that and bring that back to this committee. We heard from the judge this past week, and she said she's willing to make them pay the price. However, the price is not really high enough; doesn't have any teeth into it. So, I think we're gonna check on that, and maybe at some point we can come back and possibly hire somebody. I know law enforcement really doesn't have the time. They're so busy, but maybe we need somebody like a Bart Smith to go around. Matter of fact, I picked up some trash this week thrown out the battlefield behind my house, and it's got their name and address on it. So I'm going to give them a call.
A lot of that. Amazon boxes. I mean, anything you can imagine. It's there. We just, like the mayor said, there's got to be a fine with some teeth behind it to be able to prosecute these people. So.
Other discussion? Commissioner Gurley?
I just have to agree. I got out, you can only stay inside so long. And so Sunday afternoon, my wife and I got out and drove out to some of the other districts in Rutherford County. Commissioner P., we were out your way. Went out Craner Road. There's a little new natural area out there off Craner there, other side the convenience center. But we drove on over Halls Hill. We just made the rounds of the eastern half of Rutherford County, and it's out there. It's out there. It's out there. I had the opportunity to drive up to Charleston County the other day, up 840, I-24. It's amazing what you wonder how some nobody gets some of that stuff out there. I mean, it took 2 or 3 guys to dump it, and so yeah, it's out there. So till we need some teeth in something. It's not a $25 or $50 fine. It needs to be when you dump a whole living room set on the side of the interstate or a deep freeze on the side of the interstate. You need to be paying for having that hauled off by somebody.
And we can pick it up today, and there'll be a whole nother apartment suit out there tomorrow.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Rather? I'll get with you, Commissioner P., right after Commissioner Rather.
A couple things. Instead of finding money, let's see if we can't sentence them to community service on your crew and have them pick up garbage that others have thrown away. The second thing is this, and I know it's Commissioner Gammon and my district are neighbors, and we share a lot of the same issues, and I've had to call Mac for couches and TVs, the big box TVs. So who do I call now?
You can still continue to call Mac,
okay.
and that's kind of where that liaison will work out. We get tons of calls for the state roads and interstates, and so solid waste is still going to handle a lot of those calls, but you can really call either.
Okay.
We'll be working together with it, so either one.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner P.
Superintendent Cope, are you currently, or have you been testing your inmates and staff for the COVID virus? And if so, have you had any positives?
No, sir. No testing and no positives. Testing, and there are several different theories to that, but testing is usually best if it's done for people who are symptomatic. And we've not had anyone who would meet that criteria. So no test, no positive, no symptoms.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Okay, anything else, anyone? If not, to have a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner P. Second. Commissioner Gammon, call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P.?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. All right, juvenile detention report. Ms. Duke.
Good evening. Tonight I have my usual reports as well as a couple MOUs at the end. Be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding any portion of the report. We did talk to the state of Tennessee, and they have assured us that they have done a direct deposit on their balance, and I am waiting to hear back from the finance department to find out if they have indeed received that electronic deposit. But beyond that, I'll answer any questions you have regarding the report.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. P.
Got the same question for her that I did Superintendent Cope. Have you been testing for the virus with your population and your employees?
We have had several employees that have had exposure outside of work that wanted to voluntarily have themselves tested, and they have all come back negative. And we are checking for symptoms for our employees as well as the young people and visitors that come into the building.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions on the report?
Motion to approve the report, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve the report. Commissioner P., have a second?
Chairman.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Call the roll.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. And I believe we have 2 MOUs, one basic education services for incarcerated youth. Is that the first one?
Yes. So, obviously, we can take them separate if we need to. Both of these MOUs are the same as they were for last year. The county attorney has taken a look at them, approves the language. It is between our department and the Board of Education. It is broken into 2 pieces because we provide 2 different types of educational services, one being the basic education. That's where the young people that are detained actually do the work from their home schools via the computer lab. And then the second MOU is for the supplemental education services. Both type services are required. Supplemental is more along the lines of testing for high school equivalency, credit recovery, and dropout prevention curriculum. So, but this is the same as it was last year. We're just asking to sign these again for the upcoming school year.
So both of them are basically going through the school board. So I think we can take both those on the same motion. I think would be okay. One's just for basic and one's for supplemental.
That's correct.
Questions on this, on these MOUs?
Make a motion to approve both agreements, MOUs.
Commissioner Gurley approves both of them. Do we have a second? Have a second. Commissioner Rather. Call the roll.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes. Thank you. Hey, Sheriff's report. As they're coming up, I hope everyone is being sure to read the Sheriff's Office report that you get on our SharePoint. It has a lot of good information that I think is very important. It has information pertaining specifically to your districts that tells you what's going on out there, the different things that are happening. And I was quite surprised with 132 square miles in my district. It's just the few that have the reports that I've had in there for this past time. So everybody seems to be hunkered down out my way, so they're not getting out just yet. But I think you need to be sure and take a look at that when you get those on your SharePoint. Yes, ma'am. Come right ahead. I guess we could go through the report. Just ask if there is any question. You have the report. I think the reports all refer back to the amendments you're going to ask for, don't they?
Report is what you get we usually do it separately. I do an amendment and then I do the report if there's any questions.
I'll tell you, why don't you go ahead with your amendment? Let's go that way.
The amendment that I have tonight, we can do both at one time. It's coming out of the jail side. So I've spoken with y'all about our utilities. We knew we were going to be short. So I'm taking money from food supply, building improvements, and other equipment in the amount of $90,000 to put into my utilities. The second one, once again, prisoners' transport has been an issue with us. And I will have to remove $10,000 from jury and witness expense and put that into prisoner transport. So altogether, it's a $100,000 request of increase and decrease.
Questions on the amendment?
Preble, why so many transfers or transports?
Well, they don't,
Is that
you know, we're
unusually high?
Not this high. We used prisoner transport services. They don't fly, and they haven't flown in 2 months. That's 95 cents a mile. And we have one coming out of Minneapolis that's gone to Broward County, Florida, and to us, that was well over 3,000, and one into Houston, Texas. So 2 of those transports were about 60% of our cost. And we did not know they weren't flying, so.
Well, I thought there might have been a reason for it to be that much more. Of course, that's something we've already accrued in cost. If you need a motion, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve that transfer.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Commissioner Gammon. Any further questions? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
I would like to, if I can, before we do anything with the report, give y'all a little Siemens update on what we're doing on the building. We officially finished the LED lights. I think it was today. They packed up. We have our plumbing should be finished on the toilets and water by the end of the week, and we started the laundry build out today. And I wish Josh hadn't left, because we're shipping him about 400 to 500 pounds of laundry every day for the next month, and I appreciate them taking that on for us. So I just want to get y'all where that project is. And other than that, it's the report that y'all been presented.
Any questions on the report? You have the numbers there before you. Total inmates right now, 669. Is that where we?
This is the lowest I can remember our female population being.
I was going to say that's one of the lower
Unless
numbers
I
I've
was
heard
working
in a
there
while.
20 years ago.
Yeah, that's the lowest it's been since we moved in a new facility, back in 97, 98.
Well, as the mayor reminded me up here, courts are closed, and
Well, we also have our pretrial release program.
right, we have the pre-trial that's in there.
But just remember, when the females start coming back, we have 74. 99% of those are on some type of medication for mental health. So that's what we deal with a lot with our female population.
I got to ask, how you doing on toilet paper?
We're still spending about $1,000 a week or more.
Connections?
You wouldn't want this, trust me.
All right, any other questions?
Same question for her as I had for the other 2 departments. Are you testing for COVID? Have you got any positives?
As you know, I think we spoke about the segregation that we've made, that we put new receiving inmates in. If they have symptoms, they are tested. And I think we're about up to 26 or 30, all negative. If we feel like there's an exposure to one of our employees, they will go home. If they don't have a place, we'll find them a place. All of those have been negative. And if people come in and think they've been exposed, we send them home, and they've all been negative. So I think, how many employees tested? 10, maybe 6, yeah. But so far, none.
Well, that's wonderful. The reason I'm asking that is, I've got people in the community asking me about it and testing, and I hadn't heard anything specific, so that's why I'm asking. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Sounds like y'all are all doing a good job.
You good?
Any other questions?
Good.
Any other questions? Motion to approve the report.
I'll second that.
Second over here, Commissioner Gurley. Call the roll.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. Thank you. I believe we're ready for pause. You know, as Michael's walking up here, I'm going to make a statement. You know, if you'll all remember back in March, we called an emergency meeting for everybody to come in up here when that first case was mentioned. And at that time, I think it was an ultimatum basically given that we get out here and work on this and that we try to protect this. And I think we have to commend our departments. They've been doing that. They've been taking that step out to do some things differently. And we've seen that. And I think that's why we're in the position we're in and why you're getting these types of reports this evening from what we're having. Now, we don't know what the future is and where we are or what totally will be, but I think that's why we're seeing such good response from what's happening in these departments, because we didn't just sit there and say, well, we'll see what's going to happen. We went ahead and done what we thought was right, and I appreciate them for going ahead and doing that, and the mayor for taking that step out at the very beginning. It's really appreciated. Michael?
Good evening. You have the report in front of you for the month of April, and if you'll recall, I kind of braced you a little bit last month for kind of what was coming. Of course, our numbers are down. We only had 72 animals that entered into the shelter, but you'll also see that we dropped below that 90% for our live release rate. However, even though we dropped below that, there were no animals that were euthanized for space reasons. We still were able to maintain that they were all for severe medical or behavior. You've got to think, though, that the reason that that number is lower is out of that 72 animals that we took in during that month, those were all emergency intakes, basically. So you're looking at your bite cases, you're looking at your injured animals and things like that. We just didn't have enough animals coming in to spread that out over the entire month to get to that 90%. So I'm still pleased with that number. Of course, we did not do any surgery programs for the month of April. Those did fire back up in May, and within 2 weeks, we had already performed 150 surgeries for the public. At the end of the month, we only had 15 animals in the shelter. Again, that was by design for us to be prepared for COVID. We had hardly anybody visit the shelter, and we recorded about 1,700 calls and voicemails. We had 863 calls for our officers. Our officers were still out every day handling calls. Typically, those were going to be our bite cases, our animals that were injured, and those type things. And they only traveled 7,730 miles for the month. Year to date, the biggest thing there I want to point out is live release rate is 91.5%, and I think that we'll be able to maintain that for the rest of the fiscal year. Last part of the report is the rabies and bite exposure for the month. We had 37 bites. 5 of those were tested. None came back as positive. And we had 4 other exposures. 1 was tested. It did not come back positive as well. So we've had no positive rabies cases that we've sent off for testing in the year 2020. Those are my report, sir.
Any questions on the report? If not, do I hear a motion of approval?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Rather approves.
Second.
Commissioner Gurley seconds. Call the roll.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes. And I believe you have an amendment, I believe.
We're asking to move money within our budget, $8,000 from our other salaries and wages over to our vet services line. We've seen this multiple times throughout the year due to the vacancy of the full-time position, so that we can bring in those contract vets to help with our public surgeries. And then moving money within 4 lines in our budget over to vehicle maintenance and repairs. We have a vehicle that has a transmission that's out. This will go to help replace it, as well as just provide money to get us to the end of the budget year with our vehicles.
Any questions on the amendment?
Chairman, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Commissioner Gurley, I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Any other business needs to come before this body?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Phillips?
It's Mr. P., not me.
You wasn't, okay. Commissioner P., was that you?
It was.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the reason again, to mention why I was asking about the COVID cases, these departments that we're talking to are the frontline defense for our county. You know, our EMS people, if you're sick, you know, they've got to go in without question and pick these guys up, whether they are positive or not. And, you know, it takes a lot of courage just to do that job. Our patrol officers are stopping citizens that, you know, need stopping. You know, that's a frontline job. Our firefighters doing extrication on wrecks. You don't know, you know, if these persons that are injured there. And I just wanted to applaud the mayor and these departments, the mayor for recognizing these guys this month. And, you know, our department heads, as you, Chairman Reed, mentioned, you know, we had a meeting a month or so ago, and basically the challenge went out there to these departments, and they really came right up to bat and taking care of our county. And as mentioned, I don't think we can say it enough for our EMS director to have the other counties in our state calling us to set up the same methods that we're using to protect our people speaks a lot for how well we're doing. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to all these guys again.
Thank you, Commissioner P. I'm glad you said that, and I appreciate them being recognized this evening in our proclamation, and remember the job that they're doing out there. I do know a situation in which we had a situation where an individual was needed to come out of the hospital with that had just gotten over the virus, and they were having a problem getting somebody to come and get them. They called us to come and get them, and we didn't turn them down. You know, we have it reported here. We attempt to never turn anybody down. We try to go get them, so we went and picked them up, and our guys are always there and ready to do this. So I think they stand ready to go. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I probably I failed to have given the glory when the guys were here, but let me share with you before we adjourn an incident that occurred, and it led to really something good. Director Hudgens had volunteered with Dana to be swab testing, nasal swab testing for the coronavirus. And so week before last, when we did 635 people in line out at SportsCom, I think Director Hudgens had 12 EMS personnel out there. And it was actually outside of their scope of practice. And when he shared that with me, I got on the phone and I called Senator Reeves. Shane put me on hold. We contacted the commissioner. Commissioner was busy, so I got Valerie Nagashiner, which I've known for 16 years. She's now the Assistant Commissioner of Health. And they thought that was probably, if you can intubate a patient and have to put them to sleep in order to put an intubating tube down their throat, it's a whole lot more invasive than sticking a Q-tip up someone's nose. And they agreed with what our EMS guys were doing. And so last Thursday morning, they had an emergency meeting of all the EMS directors across the state, or supervisors who work for the Department of Health. They all agreed to that. And because of what we were wanting to do here, It is now considered inside the scope of practice for all EMTs moving forward at this point in time. So they're all, they're again, still continuing to lead the way.
Thank you, sir. They are. They're amazing in what they're doing out there now, and we sure appreciate them. Anything else come before this meeting? If not, we're adjourned.
Mr. Chairman, this is
Yes.
Jeff Phillips. My laptop blacked out for a few minutes, and I missed some of the conversation when it came to the workhouse. However, when I got back online, I think the conversation was dealing with garbage and litter and that type of thing. And let me just share with everyone, about 8 or 10 years ago, the steering committee was asked to look into a litter ordinance, and that steering committee committed more than 6 months of study and put together a proposal which failed to come out of steering with a positive recommendation. Some of the obstacles was enforcement more than anything else, and holding landowners that were victims more than litterers. So it failed. The proposal failed to even make it out of steering. And once again, it was all types of things that the committee got hung up on, just like newspapers being left on the side of the road when a person was out of town, something like that. So it was a nightmare to try to work through that. But an ordinance was put together, and if you want me to, or I can go back and pull that ordinance and try to refresh my memory as to what that committee went through, and bring that report back to public safety if you'd like for me to.
I mean, it's okay with me if you'd like to bring that up for a report. That's fine. And if any of you happen to miss the most recent Public Works meeting, I'd suggest you go back and watch that, because a lot of this was discussed at that last meeting, and that'd give you some inside information of what we're talking about here. So suggest that, but that'd be fine, Commissioner, to bring that back. That'd be great. Anything else? If not, we're adjourned.